Hey everybody. Thanks for having me out here. Real honor. When Casey told me about this, he said that he wanted people to read poems that kind of are about themselves, kind of have their voice in them. And I told him that's great because I've been working on one just a few days ago called "Smelling My Own Armpit." Fortunately, it was just a working title. So, okay. I think I got it. There we go. Alright, so it's a fairly long poem. It's about 13 parts. It's called Sweat Song. And it's a self-portrait I wrote over the past month or so. I want to be shared and handed back. Have someone turn me around in her fingers as I gaze up, pupils dilating with curiosity. Get someone to lay fingerprints on me. I'm dragging my future on a sled across Michigan. The flurries keep me company when the stars get tired of my antics and stumble home to relax. They wonder how much longer until I unpack the weight of what will happen into the empty blue I-93 void. But I'm waiting for the whale to swallow me, waiting to wake up 3 days later in my university catacomb to claim transformation is only my dream, to be meaningless as a man in the library who's lost the ability to read. I tell God, I don't want to understand myself, and I don't want to understand you. I'm in the same hospital bed my brother was in, the same surgery scar in my breast. I raise my hands to the motorcycle gears grinding above me, the great bison, and seeing my name on one, I reach out to pluck it. Here's where I'm most comfortable, surrounded by the iron scent of sulfur and grease, in animal nakedness, like the oil spot on the neighborhood asphalt, or the skin texture of living. I want to believe so bad that the struggle for the trees of Oaxaca isn't spiritual, it's just the wet earth rolling off the bed out of another nightmare. But the wolves wake me with their prayers to the moon. They plod religious circles in the ground, a shuddering praise. Is anybody out there, sincere, in the primordial mud, or in rushing through a patch of thorns, or in the following whiteness of open flesh, or in laying against the curb in Ashtamo childhood, hoping for swear words to take me away in their limos? My body in the earth and the elsewhere are just too braided, like the girl in the artist colony who carved out a piece of my heart and drank the blood to become ugly. Ooh, gross. That night, he came home from karaoke soundlessly drunk, asked me what I thought of his ex-girlfriend, and I said she was a total bitch, and that was the wrong answer. The sound of the brittle furniture sparking splinters and planks waterfalled out of the doorframe I stood against, watching him smash, smoking, wondering whether or not I was supposed to be getting traumatized by this, or if I should say the right words, or if he'd remember this tomorrow, or if I could sit back and solicit this situation, study the dangerousness of the love phenomenon, of wants, of things as they aren't. I stopped him when the dogs got hit, and after he drifted red-eyed through the slammed door into a heartbreak sketch of neighborhood dark, I swept up the pieces with a green broom into a funeral pyre of timber and cushions in the middle of the parlor room, put the dogs outside, and drove to the coffee shop, beer in hand, so somebody could ask me how I am. I'm at the top of Sproul Tower again, looking down over this cardboard cut-up teenage town, hands clasped behind me so I know how far despair can stretch. It's a similar feeling to the time I realized I'd accidentally memorized my social security number. I'll tattoo it to my forehead to prove its uselessness or steal a National Enquirer from a gas station. The billboard boasted, "My bank still answers the phone," inferring that there is still a cranky appendage of flesh underneath that they haven't yet killed. And when the water rises, Hallmark cards will be floating everywhere. My tired bones each day are wound in 3,500 barbed wire advertisements, and I collapse into the puddle of life, clutching my last $500. Once, I scaled the pole to the roof of the bagel beanery to look down on thinkers thinking their thoughts, and in the morning, I slyly plotted the death of capitalism, wondering why the hell my ham and cheese omelet was taking so long. I invited my father to the punk show, the same way I invite famous folks to join the revolution when I'm drunk. Their publicists are understandably concerned. The Spartan women and gay boys in tattoos swayed in front, and the moment Papa left, my own chest and the basement walls caved and breathed, and I got punched in the face, ran aground on a sweaty beach, dunked my head under the wet lake of bodies and hair and accordion voices, my fist and arm celebrating this body, this dirt, this finite humanity. I wonder if those moments are too short, or if I could just let go, become raw and lingering as seaweed, or if there's this path, straight as time and place, narrow as charity, comfortable as grad school, loveless as the academic tomb we resurrect from. if I might give my parents some peace by setting off to Rockefeller Center with a blessing and a backpack to find my fortune, like a fairy tale, or like a normal boy. I love our imperfection, the beads on your salty forehead, the electric hair in your rustled ponytail, the goosebumps on the bruises on your breasts, the asymmetric eyeliner I ruined. I love the struggle to turn off the light, to lock the door and stumble through this air that breathes me back to bed, the awkward arms slowly going numb in the panic under your neck. I even love chapstick, knowing we'll all be dead in 60 Christmases and counting, caring about you enough to love the endlessness of events and the fleetingness moments. Our blue veins slowly emerge while my mind lists reasons and erections of why and why not. You just have to draw it out of me slowly, and I'll give sexy middle names to each of your armpit hairs, shivering together in the work mornings when I stir towards you, this body that isn't mine, this mind that I'm always a step behind. I got tired of people figuring me out pretty fast, so I read my parents' parenting books and did everything opposite, but they just bought more books. I lay my head against the railroad tracks, listening to the approaching madness of heaven, and counted my footprints backward from a plan I once had to make something of myself. They shouldn't have let me bring Dostoevsky to school. I discovered nothing, and I liked it. My brother was the steel beam in the tower, and I was the secret room where we hid the bodies, dragged there, leaving a bloody trail tourists would step over. Somebody should clean this up, the tour guide would mutter, and the Mexican who picks our tomatoes would scurry over with a mop in that bucket, as yellow as industry, to hide the evidence under pine saw and a grimacing quiet on prayer. I used to have cold edges, and I only lived in one place. Life was simple when I had boundaries. Between light and darkness, my non-self violently slumbered, but prisms scatter light into a morality I can mold, and the darkness teaches itself new shades. The worst part, that creation gives birth to itself, makes this infinite hole in my head more infinite today than before. I stretch my arms wild riding bicycle parts on highway car horns. And though I never touched the moon, I still know someone did. Imagination tries to box me into absolute nihilism. Then I get lost in a purchase of liquor, an employed face, an event, a conversation, ink, rock pavement, rock bottom, and keyboard in cold recital halls. I walked over to the impasse, looking down on buildings, bringing no tools, and in my adamant open-mindedness, God said, "That's what people get for being adaptable, for building up a heaven without a petitions department, for keeping track of the numbers. The universe stretches its arms out further into space, and all its stars float apart. Believe in me, and don't believe in me." And I cringe at the sound of tiny buildings snapping like branches. It gets into a little bit of God stuff here. My parents and I, we're trading these really lame Christian books back and forth. It's kind of like, I don't know, it's like two people. It's not really about a relationship. It's about two people trying to convince each other of things, like back and forth forever. One of those situations. So, yeah. Jeremy's brain melted itself so he wouldn't kill himself. A self-defense mechanism, they called it. So now he paces the home muttering, I died all day. Brain won, Jeremy won. Your move, Jesus. Maybe the world does make sense. My brain did the same thing. I want something to matter, perhaps my first 3 bird-beak kisses, like the insane people who weekly paint the sagging eyelids of the whitewashed Acropolis tomb. Maybe infinity is just a stupid Ice Cube idea, but then I think, I can't be crazy. If the FBI is trying to figure out who I am, I must be doing something right. Behind their two-way mirror, the interrogation continues some finite distance, until I begin to guess that life is only a series of guilts and morning sweat and cold coffee given to me by an annoyed university detective who's never heard of anyone named Che Guevara, which means everything I've been up to so far has lacked a certain element of clarity. And even scribbling the medium is the message on a nuclear warhead probably wouldn't get any points across. I wander up to the library, wondering which catalyst would be the death of me, or what a resurrection would taste like. The fog on Partella Road was an oppressive cotton blanket when I buried myself under the fire pit. I've melted my memories in the underground, so it all folds into itself, the heat from above caving in around the molting plastic box, dirt urging itself against the black duct tape and waterproof seals, warping it into smoking remains of notebooks, love notes, awards, the beating angel heart of the past and the nerd who ran cross country, a creature less material than I, with shorter hair. I see the curly red with freckles put on a ski mask in the cloudy Mayday street of Chicago children, with flags and their meanings, gasping for oxygen and parental tear gas. She turns her furtive mischief eyes my way as if to say, be free for a second. It sounds tempting, like climbing out the second-story window in rain. But every time the old man's standing there too, telling me that faith is a science, and if I use words, I might see what's on God's tablecloth. I put my paint roller and paint cans and sunburns in 4 hours into the creases in my sticky green palms, and I held them tight. Blessed are the trespassers, for they shall steal the earth. Blessed are the thieves, for they shall overcome the sin of property. The sun licked the muscles under my shoulders, and in the flame-tipped wind, the stink of my sweat sang of Pentecostal borders to cross. Oh Lord, forgive us our chain-link fences. Rising around me from the wet hair under my arms, precariously, the Amtrak sidles up to me, bellowing of limes. My sweat song crushed aluminum and licked shut envelopes of smoke addressed to a different hell, eyes closed, and the asphalt pebbles between my toes, cupped hands to their ears, for even the rocks will quietly listen. In 2 months, my footprint will be a lost lesson again, like the abandoned trailer park I left it in. But I stood there, with 2 fistfuls of secrets, heavy as liquor and dripping out, my chest heaving against God's face, my chest hairs daring him to stare into their burning bush eyes and listen to their gentle Sinai whispers. The cosmology student and I sat on the roof rubbing leg hair and shingles together, the tips of our fingers bleeding over the grainy reality and the angular slope groaning against our backs. He looked up at the stars, saying, empty space without time and without energy will produce somewhere and sometime out of nowhere, in no time. I took his hand. It's been proven by quantum mechanics, he said. I scratched my leg with an uncomfortable difficulty, the screws in the roof beams purring away, the white moon pointing fingers at his electric circulatory system, the sweat of the frontier grizzlies swallowed up by the surveyors, their quiet squares like a lonesome genocide. Quantum mechanics. Something can come from nothing. Once I couldn't see God because I was looking too hard. And once I stopped believing in God because he started making sense. And here on the roof, feeling larger than before, I buried my stillborn answers and heard the cry of a question being born, in the warm and in the wet. This is the last part. I want to feel the softness of your lips, she says. We run outside to the bricks beneath us growing between the weeds. And I wonder if she has a viewpoint on monogamy or if she's just a complete human being. When I'm being touched, I don't care that the cops keep sending me calm disasters. Just let me touch your lips, so rushed, testing their reality, a child discovering taste. Exhausted from having my fist under my chin so long, I hold her blonde arms, sweaty in the June dark. I look down on the breathing wood floorboards, noticing that, yes, the men are still building things in their haphazard way. The firemen are putting out fires. The judges keep telling kids that stealing is bad. Joyfully, abruptly, efficiently, I am hauling things out of place, sometimes with great effort, sometimes with a peach-like kiss, never with a plan nor goal. I stretch my dreamlessness long under dusty pianos. We go swimming in the lake, and thunder ripens the torrent, rumbling low on our heathen forgivenesses. I'm done with you. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening.